So what is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Tyler, and obviously we did not get a resolution or a conclusion to the debt ceiling and government shutdown crisis that is looming over our heads. So I want to go over what is being said. I don't like to get into politics, but when it directly affects my investments, like my investment in AMC, this is the biggest catalyst that is going to either push AMC up higher or drop it down even lower. But before we get into all that information, I do want to point out one of the most famous quotes from Warren Buffett. It is stated, "The stock market is simply a tool used to transfer wealth from the impatient to the patient." Question is, are you patient enough? Do you have enough confidence and conviction in AMC through all of the due diligence we have constantly provided here on YouTube and abroad to remain in your positions? Now, another way that I like to look at this as if AMC is essentially a winning lottery ticket. You don't know when you can scratch it. You don't know how much you're going to get. Imagine that. You bought a lottery ticket from the store, say $20 theoretically. I don't play the lottery. I invest in the markets and I gamble with options. So that's what I do. I don't play the lottery up front. But if you do, imagine you bought a $20 ticket from the gas station or whatever, and you knew it was a winner. Somehow you knew. You didn't know how much. You didn't know when you were going to get the phone call that said, hey, you can scratch your ticket now. Would you give your ticket back to the store for $20 back in exchange? I don't think anybody would do that just because you know it's a winner. That is the same thing. Hopefully you guys understand what I mean by that. You get the analogy here. This is the same thing with AMC. Would you give your lottery ticket back? I don't care if the stock falls 50%. That is an opportunity for me to acquire more shares to create more wealth, potentially generational wealth for me, my family, and everything else I want to do to follow my passions, what I am passionate about. Ultimately, it is investing. That is what I'm passionate about. But still, guys, that is the way you should think about AMC. Regardless if we go down, if we go up, if we trade sideways, it doesn't matter to me. I am loading the boat. That is simply how high my conviction level is in AMC. Now, let's get into this whole situation. It says, Senate GOP blocks bill that would fund government and suspend debt limit as time runs short to avoid shutdown and default. Key points. Senate Republicans blocked a House-passed bill that would prevent a government shutdown and a potential default on U.S. debt. Lawmakers have passed an appropriations bill by Thursday to avoid a shutdown and need to suspend or increase the debt limit sometime in the coming weeks to prevent a default. So government shutdown coming on Thursday. What you guys need to know is a government shutdown will have little to no effect on the stock market. We're in uncharted waters because of COVID, pandemics, recovery, but throughout the last 18 government shutdowns, we have not seen an impact to the stock market whatsoever. So that's not the big concern. It is the default. The debt ceiling needs to be raised. That's the only way to put it. Some analysts are calling for a 30 to 50% drop in the stock market if that does not happen, and that will obviously affect all of your investments, and AMC is an investment that is included in this. That is why it's so important to stay up to date with what is going on, regardless of politics. Forget that. I don't have a political party. I have no political affiliation. I don't care what happens. But it says Democrats may be forced to suspend the debt limit on their own, potentially as part of their up to $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation bill. Congress is running out of time to prevent a shutdown and a default. Senate Republicans on Monday blocked a bill that would fund the government and suspend the U.S. debt ceiling, leaving Democrats scrambling to avoid a possible economic calamity. The House passed legislation would have funded the government into December and suspended the U.S. debt ceiling into December of next year after the midterm congressional elections. Lawmakers need to approve government funding before Friday to avoid a shutdown. The U.S. risks default if Congress doesn't raise the debt ceiling by a point that is likely to come in October, according to the Treasury Department. They have not put an actual date on this. Relatively speaking, probably by about October 15th, you're going to see a lot of fear in the markets if this does not happen. But after every House Republican opposed the measure, every single Republican opposed the measure. They needed 10 Republican votes, so we are far off from getting this passed. It says the Senate GOP also refused to help Democrats suspend the debt limit in a 48 to 50 vote. All Republican senators opposed advancing the legislation. Senate Majority Leader Majority Leader Chuck Schumer voted no as a procedural move so he could bring up the bill again later. Democrats now have to pull off a daunting series of maneuvers to avoid a sequence of events that could ravage the economy and cost millions of Americans their jobs. The Republican opposition may force them to pass a short-term funding bill with GOP support, then approve a debt limit suspension on their own, potentially as part of up to their $3.5 trillion budget reconciliation plan. In quotes, the Republican Party has solidified itself as the party of default and will be the American people who will pay the price. Obviously, not going to get into politics here. I really don't care. I mean, it'd be a good and bad thing to see my investments fall 50%. On the one hand, I would be down quite a lot of money. On the other hand, I would be able to make a lot more when I ferociously buy the dip. So let's continue on. He added that, in quotes, we'll be taking further action this week to prevent a shutdown and default. He did not specify how Democrats would proceed. Government funding will lapse if lawmakers do not pass an appropriateness bill before midnight Thursday. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen has told lawmakers that the U.S. will run out of ways to pay its bills sometime in October unless Congress raises the debt ceiling. Government funding and the debt limit are separate issues. Raising the ceiling does not authorize new government spending, but allows the U.S. to borrow to cover existing obligations. Democrats have criticized Republicans for risking economic ruin while opposing a debt ceiling suspension, which they have supported in the past. The party has also noted that GOP voted for trillions of dollars in emergency coronavirus aid since the last time Congress suspended the limit. Let's just forget all this politics shit. We will provide Republican votes for raising the debt limit, he said. Yeah, speaking before the vote Monday, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell reiterated that Republicans would vote for a short-term funding bill that does not raise the debt ceiling. So this is ultimately a political battle that is going on, a major political battle, and obviously my conviction still stays the same. About 75 to 85% chance the United States does not default on its debt for the first time in history. In other words, they will pass the debt ceiling, and the government might shut down for a little while. The markets really aren't going to care about that. Your investments won't care about that whatsoever. I can damn near promise you on that. But overall, I do think this will be a good boost to AMC and the overall markets, but something we should watch pretty closely to see what does happen. And see, futures are going back up a little bit. People are not too concerned as of right now, but definitely something to keep your eyes on. Obviously, could be a good thing, could be a very bad thing. I just wanted to bring this to your guys' attention and explain the confidence level of essentially AMC is a winning lottery ticket. You don't know when you could scratch it or how much it's going to be, but you know what it is. So with all that being said, guys, that's pretty much going to conclude this video. Hopefully kept this pretty short. You guys got the information that you needed to know and you can move on with your day. With all that being said, guys, I will see you in the next video.